watch band, so you want to count it down.
All right, 3, 2, 1. What up, guys and girls? It is Bobby
And Sean.
coming at you for this week's episode of the Cronus Cast. This week's episode, like all episodes, is brought to you guys by Paragon Recovery. Use code Cronus for 15% off, and if you're military or first responder, contact them directly for an additional discount. You guys have heard week after week. I have nothing but good things to say about Paragon Recovery. You know, their sleep supplement has helped drastically improve my sleep. Wake up feeling refreshed and recovered. And then their anti-inflammatory supplement, their Flame Off supplement, also very highly recommended. It helps me a lot with my inflammation and, helping me feel not as painful the next day.
Yeah, and speaking of painful the next day, you've been crushing the mileage. You did, what, 22 yesterday?
That's correct. I did a 22 miler yesterday on the gravel trails, which not my preferred, surface to run on.
So when we talk gravel, are we talking like hard pack, or are we talking like big rocks, like tank trails?
I think it's like a mixture of tank trails and like hard pack. So like it's like a good mixture between the two. So like towards the back half of the run, I was like running like I was doing this pretty much because my feet. For those who can't see, I'm doing like a zigzag motion. I was pretty much just zigzagging down the road because my feet were getting destroyed by like these medium-sized to large-sized rocks, just like crushing my feet. So my feet were super sore.
Oh, dude, that sucks. There were some posts that I remember had like good running trails. Like Carson has phenomenal trails where it's essentially just like hard packed earth.
Yeah.
Uh, Hood did not have such good trails. It was a lot of like big ass rocks. Stewart and Hunter were essentially just like concrete, and then some trails that you could run on both posts. But I think Benning probably had the best trails that I've been on
Yeah, I would
anywhere.
agree. Yeah, because it's that super soft, like sandy red dirt. So it
Yeah.
just like isn't destroying you, but it's like, kind of cushioning, but it's not like super soft. So you're not like dying running soft sand. But
No.
yeah, I was like, the trails out here aren't too bad. It just depends on like how deep into the trails I go because some trails are like just like two lane for like two wheeled for Humvees or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just like the middle lane where there's no tires on it is just overgrown. So like half the day yesterday, I was just running in like grass. Like I've like scratched all over my shins. Like my feet were just soaked. I need to start bringing extra pairs of socks because like by like mile 5 or 10, my feet were soaked because it was
Oh,
raining there, of course.
that's a good point. Whenever I finish my brick workout days, I usually change my socks. And then one thing that I've like had to remind myself, because it's not just on rucking any longer, but putting on body glide for long runs, so as not to chafe. I've got I like love running in Ranger panties, but like I don't know if I'd ran in longer shorts, I would have avoided some of the chafing. But the body glide stuff, like that's a lifesaver.
I will say that I have never had issues with chafing before. I think it's like Asian skin. My feet are also, it's just also weird, my skin, because I don't really blister my feet when I ruck. I can count on like my hands, on like one hand, how many times I've had like feet blisters.
Yeah,
They're always from like jogging, not even rucking. Like I've never gotten blisters from rucking before. I've also only chafed like one time that I remember. That was like rasp too, because it was so fucking humid. I was like, what is
Sandy.
going? Yeah, I was like, what is going on? Why does my groin hurt so bad? And I was like, oh, it's because it's chafed. This is the
Yeah.
first time in my life I've ever chafed.
When I was training up for RASP, I remember I would like my lower back would get chafed from running with like plate carriers or doing
Mm.
like ruck runs. I think I've only had 2 or 3 blisters in my entire life, and that's like running included. I've never had issues rucking though with my feet. I've been really fortunate with that. I don't know if it's like because I'm really stubborn when it comes to my technique, and I'm just trying to like preserve my foot health every single time I strike the ground, or whether I just have weird feet.
Yeah, I honestly have no idea either because like I never blister when I ruck. Never have. I don't know if it's like a skin thing or just like maybe just my feet are super calloused. I don't know exactly what the answer is, but no complaints.
Dude, I took that bike ride up 9W I'm eventually going to do like a century ride up to West Point and back, but holy shit. I thought
Mountains.
9W was going to be like relatively flat because the last couple of weeks I've gotten off the GW bridge and I've gone, 12, 15 miles up and back because leaving from Midtown Manhattan, it just adds miles anyway. And then this week I went up to Rockland State Park, and once you hit like the Nyack, like Alpine Basin town, whatever that is, it literally is like up and down and up and down, and to the point where I would finish climbing a half mile, 3/4 long mile hill. I'd get to the flat part and my legs would still be so tired. I'd be like, I think I'm still climbing. I can't tell anymore. And until I was going downhill, when I was like, okay, I can be sure that I'm not on flat right now.
Yeah, it's kind of rough. Like I know the terrain up there, and the terrain up there is not very conducive. I mean, it's great training, but you're not going to be exactly doing great heart rate training or heart zone training.
No, it like my heart rate was spiking up and down. I was supposed to stay in like zone 2, but more so I was trying to maintain just like a power output on the bike, and then also keep in mind what my pace was because I'd like realistically to average between like 18 to like 21 miles an hour when I go on these long, comfortable rides where I just get into that zone. And there were times I was going uphill at like 6 miles an hour at like the highest gear, just pedaling my ass off as not to fall over and getting passed by some cars. And, people are just pretty rude. That's one thing that I think I've bitched about it before on the podcast. But if like you recognize someone's putting an effort on something, whether it's running, biking, and like I'm not putting forth that effort, I usually give them the right of way. So if I'm on a trail in Central Park and I know someone's about to fly by the road, like I'll stop my workout and catch my breath to allow them to continue with whatever they're doing because it's clear that they're putting forth way more effort than I am for that given period. I just don't understand it. Like when people are flying by you in cars, it's like you couldn't wait 3 more seconds to pass me on this turn to make sure that there was not another car coming, or you didn't have to lay on your horn that aggressively. It's just common courtesies I just don't get.
Yeah, I like that's one thing I'm super cognizant of when I'm like driving and there's somebody biking on the road. Is like to be I will definitely err on the side of like slowing down, like making sure that I don't push them because the last thing you want to do is fucking hit somebody when they're riding a bike.
It's terrifying. I was going downhill in a couple places, and it's like when I ride this route again, I'm going to know exactly where the longer downhills are. But there's some downhills that you're like, you don't know if this is going to come up to a traffic light. And so for a car, it's easy to stop on a downhill. But if you're on a bike going 35 to 40 miles an hour, just
Ooh.
in that tuck, I am terrified. Like I've not been terrified by a lot in my life. I am terrified on this bike. Just like I'm gripping both brakes, and you're supposed to like kind of tap the brake instead of like riding on the brake going down. Just like I really hope this comes out to a flat spot, or it doesn't like come up to an intersection where I've got to throw on the brakes because there's cars passing. It was uncomfortable, but going back, I was like, all right, like it's relatively safe. The lights are pretty obvious now, and I think I'll have fun just training. But eventually, to get up to West Point and go back down to Manhattan.
Yeah, that's a very long ride. I'll say
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And I thought it was going to be for anyone that's got like Strava or like Map My Ride, any of these apps out there. People are always posting these photos of 9W and like how beautiful it is next to the water. And it's misleading because that ride does not take you on that route. That's like the lower Palisades, next to the Hudson, this like really nice, iconic little highway. Like that's the route these people take. If you're just on the highway, you're a good mile off the river, I would say, at all times. You can catch glimpses of the Hudson, but at no point are you just like, oh my God, like, look at the Hudson. I'm down at, water level. It's like, no, you're constantly about 150 to 500 feet above the water.
Yeah, you're just climbing the entire time.
Bullshit.
It's a good ride. Good training, though. Great
Yeah,
training.
great training. Great training.
Although I kind of wish that there were more hills up in Lewis, so I could get some more training on like hills. But then my 50 mile is pretty much flat the entire time, so I don't necessarily think I need to train hills or train like climbing. But just for like my own physical development, I feel like I should be doing more hill work.
Have you been staying in like that easy zone, or are you getting up to like the aerobic threshold area on these really long runs?
I take for the long runs, like my Saturday runs, I'm definitely in the easy, like zone 2, like high zone 2, low zone 3, like 130s where I like to sit for my long runs. But then like
Yeah.
my weekly during my week, my training runs or whatever runs during the week, I just kind of run a certain pace and just hold on for what pace that is. Because I generally
Yeah.
speaking, like no, it's kind of weird. Uh, like if Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I ran the exact same route each day, and then Thursday and Friday were exactly the same pace and the exact same route. And then Friday, I actually ran like 20. My heart rate was like 20 beats per minute slower than my Thursday run. But
Damn.
Friday, I was like significantly sore because the gyms opened up in Lewis this past week. So I went like this Wednesday, Thursday, and then squatted and like did like leg stuff. So I was sore as fuck. But somehow when I ran on Friday, I ran better than I ran on Thursday when I was less sore. So I don't really
Yeah.
understand.
I had the same thing. I finished my bike on Friday, which is like my brick workout day. And yesterday went for my long run and I felt like phenomenal. One, it's been the best weather New York's had now in like 2+ months. It was 70 some degrees. It wasn't really humid. There was a great breeze that I was able to stay like at about 135 beats per minute on the heart rate and just cruising way more than I was cruising like, a month and a half ago when I kind of started this. And I remember my zone 2 runs where you guys were making fun of me for how slow it was. It's like, what are you walking?
For real though.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah, it's just like very interesting how the body is responding to all the volume for me, especially for running. I actually wonder if something else is going on with my body because I don't know if you can hear right now, but I'm super congested, and I have been like super congested ever since we got out to Washington. Like my eczema on my elbows is breaking out. I don't know if you can see my right eye is swollen right now.
you have like allergies.
I don't know what it is. So like I've noticed that I have like a lot more allergic or inflammation going on. So I don't know like what exactly is going on in my body. I was thinking about maybe trying the carnivore diet if it doesn't work out in another couple of weeks.
I'm switching my diet up to a higher fat diet in the next couple of weeks, just because I feel like I'm just a fucking giant carb at this point.
Yeah,
But I've finished runs and I've been like smelling like ammonia, so like I don't think I've been fueling like properly every single day before some of these like really long workouts where I'm going for 4 to 5 hours.
well, the ammonia is pretty much just in ketosis essentially, and burning proteins when you're in
Yes.
ketosis. Yeah, so that probably means you're not eating enough carbs, if anything.
Yeah,
But
that's what it. I'm supposed to be short on that, but I think what a lot of it is too is like I'll take these. Like I've done a lot of fasted cardio, and that's typically when I notice I come back and after I finish like cleaning up, I'm like, holy shit, like this is my Ranger School uniform. But then when I'll wake up earlier, have like a PB&J or something, like down a Gatorade, then I go on my run. I don't smell like that, or on my bike, I don't finish up like that. So it's like that initial fuel.
yeah, it's very interesting that you mentioned that because I think there's good evidence that shows, high fat diets can be beneficial for endurance athletes. But I actually hate eating carbs. Like, I that's like one of my, I don't like eating a lot of carbs because I think my body just doesn't do well with carbs.
Yeah.
And like the simple sugars and the processed sugars definitely, I think, contribute a lot to my inflammation in my body. And I think there's like a direct correlation between the distance or the volume that I'm running and how allergic I am. So I wonder how much that is like intertwined. Like I'm sure all the running and the inflammation I'm building from running isn't helping with my allergies as well.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious to see maybe I should start switching up my diet, switching up to less carbs because like on my runs I eat like shit. I eat like PB&J. I have like
Mm.
oatmeal cream pies, like it's like bars. So I wonder if I should just switch it up and just go straight like a almost like or a high fat, low protein or low carb diet and just
I
see how
just got
that
one of
works.
those like Osprey water backpack kind of things. It's great because it only holds, I think, like maybe 2 liters. And when it was so humid out, it was perfect. Uh, I've like tried a couple varieties of goos. Like the Gatorade goo is the easiest to go down. It's more liquid. What was that? What's the scientific term? Viscous? Is that a good?
That's a good term.
Um, but then there's the company GU goo,
Yeah.
and it's like thick, man. What I liked about the Gator is I could down them and I wouldn't have to drink water immediately after. The goos taste better, but like afterwards, I literally feel like I have
Yeah.
wet peanut butter in my mouth and I have to drink. And it's like, it's really annoying, especially because the bike is essentially one of the only times I really consume a lot of those at a time. And so trying to stay on the bike, balancing, like ripping a goo, eating the goo, putting the trash back in the top saddlebag, and then at the same time trying to get under and get water. It's like, it's like a couple minute process right there that I've just not figured out how to tweak. But it's like, this is really inefficient because these goos, I almost feel like I should just put them right up against my body to try to warm them up. Because otherwise it's just it's
Yeah.
like trying to drink a gummy.
Yeah. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of like the goos or like the gel packs because I've like the honey stinger ones, had the goo ones. I just don't really like them. I'll be honest. I'd much rather would eat something. So like that's why I like bring a lot of snacks. So like I eat something.
Yeah.
I find that to be for me personally it feels better than sucking down a goo.
Yeah, I think I might switch. I just want to try it up a couple times, see like I'll bring a sandwich with me, and at like my turnaround, I'll take a 2 minute break and eat the thing, and then jump back
Yeah.
on the bike and get going. But yeah, I'm just trying not to. I'm trying to figure out what that good pattern is. Like every hour to consume
Mhm.
at least 60.
Yeah. It's like I don't. My body's also like super weird because I noticed like on my long runs yesterday. I only ate like three snacks. I only ate a oatmeal cream pie, like a Nature Valley bar, and this PB&J like Uncrustable, which is only a total of like 700 calories, maybe 600 calories during my entire like 3.5 hour run, 4 hour run. But I felt fine. It's weird. Like I don't know. I've never like felt that like bonking or like hitting that wall on my runs ever.
I hit a wall on my run last week, and my run was like 10 to 15 seconds per mile slower than it was this week, and a mile and a half shorter. I think we were talking about it. It was just so humid and so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And like I went through 2 liters of water yesterday. I didn't have a sip of any liquid whatsoever in that, 140-ish, 100, yeah, about a 100-minute uh, run. It was just like, whatever. Like I
Yeah.
think a lot of it has to do with the weather. I got to, just time that up.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I'm trying to like dial in or figure out the nutrition, the hydration piece, but I'm still not very good at it yet.
I got a buddy training up for selection that because the selection dates have been pushed because of COVID. He started doing like a half marathon prep program, and so he and I have been talking briefly, and I think it'd be really interesting to see how that pairs with the events at selection. Because like I know guys that like didn't really do any rucking leading up to it and then passed, and like I think like it's almost to each his own. How you make that course a success for you. And so I think it's kind of cool that you could train for essentially half marathon, and that might be good. I think it's just all about that engine piece.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think for like most selections like that, especially for like SFAS, like the star course is probably the more grueling portion of it, from my understanding.
Oh
And
no,
then
I'm
like
talking about selection.
oh, like long walk selection.
Yeah,
Oh fuck that! If I was doing long walk, I'd be doing like ultra prep.
yeah,
I'd be doing
that's
ultra
what.
distance prep. No, I wouldn't be
Yeah,
doing half marathon prep.
no, he finished the. I can't. What is it? Is Mountain Athlete the one that's essentially been like the go-to? I feel like for like the one that gets passed down to every
Yeah,
single like
yeah.
ranger that's trying it in that binder. Um, Yeah, I think so. He ran through that one, and then like he's just in that interim before he kind of starts it back up again and goes. I'd be interested to see how that works out. I mean, there's a lot of guys that I know that are waiting for dates because like COVID
Yeah, the
really
travel
screwed
thing.
that up, which sucks because you can plan that thing out really well, just like what you're doing with your race date. Planning backwards, and then now it's like
Harder,
we've
yeah.
got a lot of questions too, like preparing for Ranger School, where you've gone through a 12-week program, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I have this weird 4-week period. Like, what should I be doing?
Yeah, I was just thinking like for the long walk, I think I would train for an ultra, like ultra distances, because from my understanding, like the land nav that you do in the long walk is essentially like 18 to 20 mile days. So
Yeah.
that's what I would be thinking about is like training at that ultra distance. And as a kind of a tangent, the other last week I was kind of joking and thinking to myself, like I should start. This is great training for a long walk because I'm out on the trails. I'm essentially like orienteering, so I'm just running around on the trails and like finding not necessarily finding points, but trying to stay oriented on the trails and like finding like setting boundaries and knowing roughly where I am on the map. So I was joking to myself, oh, maybe I should go just take a long walk.
I mean, that'd be an interesting progression in your entire career to, from West Point to that, just to do. I mean, it's one of those things too. I think we talked about it on one of the first podcasts about like being motivated and goal oriented and setting those goals, like not just saying you're going to do something because others around you are saying it. Like, you and I have committed to doing these endurance events. We're going to follow through and do those events. But like how many people we know that said they were going to go to SFAS, go to RASP, and then they never drop a packet, or they drop a packet and make an excuse before they hear back. And it's like, you just have to, I mean, there's that cool meme, like everyone wants to do cool shit until you actually have to get down to doing it.
Yeah.
And it's just, you just have to show up. Otherwise your words are completely hollow.
Yeah, I think that's a good. We could definitely talk about that a little bit more. I think at a certain point, there's like people like to talk about it, and then there's a certain line that there's a difference between talking about it and being about it, like and living that life. Because I know like plenty of times in the Army, like guys are untapped, like, oh, I had the opportunity to go to Ranger school, but I wanted to go deploy, or I wanted to spend time with my family, or all these myriad of excuses of why they never went. And then, they're always talking about, yeah, I had the opportunity, like I could have done it. I definitely could have done it. I was like, I don't know, man. Like you never went. So you can't say you could have done it if you never went. So it's just like, I think a lot of people live with regrets as they get older and realize, they had these opportunities to do these really cool things or to really test themselves, and just have a lot of regret and wish, and then kind of put them, or like what's the term, like where they like project themselves and project their insecurities to other people.
Yeah, well, we talked about that a couple of weeks ago too, again, where guys are just taking a shit on people in the soft branches for doing something, or I think like Nick Bear was getting shit on because he's got his Ranger tab on a lot of his posts, whether he's doing Murph or his company, and guys like inherently just wanted to be mean. It's like, what, that the dude was an infantry officer, like he had an opportunity if he wanted to, where he could have gone to SFAS, could have gone to Ranger Regiment. Not everyone, and we'll talk about it here in a second. You don't really get to pick your first duty station, and he got unlucky and got at Hood. I've been there, and I'll talk about it. And then he got out and he started a company, and it's like, and his company has been incredibly successful, but people were just crushing him for being proud to be a Ranger graduate. It's like, guys, like just because someone's successful, like there's a ton of guys that aren't successful. He's just the one that made it. And like, there's no reason, especially for the guys that like don't have a Ranger tab, that shit on him for having it. Like, that's the worst part. It's like, I guarantee you 90% of the negative comments that he ever gets are from people that didn't have the balls to go to that school or failed that school within the first 2 days. And it's like, just keep your mouth shut. You have no business talking to anyone about that program or about Ranger graduates until you go get your tab. And then if you want to put them in a body bag, you do it. Like, you've got some clout that you can stand, on top of. But just to shit on someone for shitting on someone just for going and trying to do and be better is I think is the most pathetic thing that you can possibly do as a human being.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is just like just straight up jealousy, because like we were just saying about, like I was saying about how you get that projection of like your insecurities or your faults, and like you are angry at yourself or kind of disappointed with yourself for not doing these things, and then you just project these feelings of inadequacy to other people. Which I think is pretty common, just not in the military, but just around the, like, that's human nature to do that.
Yeah. Well, so we're going to talk about it today. We're going to do a little bit of a background into what it's like to be a Ranger platoon leader. Bobby's going to be able to help out too, being the fire support officer for a company, and seeing what the platoon leaders did around him. We'll preface this episode with, like, I'm not talking about anything that's going to violate OPSEC or violate anything that we essentially promised not to divulge. It's going to be pretty bland and basic, and I think what you'll probably find is a lot of the things that you do in the Ranger Regiment are going to be exactly what you did in the regular Army, but just like we're just going to turn that dial just a little bit up for the intensity and for the, breadth of training. But being a PL in the Ranger Regiment, was the highlight of my military career. It kind of split the middle as far as how many years I had in, and then when I left. And so I would say that the conventional time in my Army bookended, what was just an incredible experience with an incredible group of people and, what I think is the most elite organization in the world. I mentioned Fort Hood. That's where I started. I was a mechanized platoon leader. I was lucky enough, though, that when I got there, I got a platoon pretty quickly. And within 2 weeks of me signing for, I think I had 8 Bradleys, I turned them all over. I didn't have to have a single Bradley because we were gearing up for deployment to Afghanistan. So we had to get ready with, the MATVs, the MRAP variations. During that deployment, I found out I was a year group 12 instead of year group 11 infantry officer. I'd already gone through all of these steps to drop an SFAS packet. Midway through the deployment, got notified that, no, we'll have to drop your packet to the next year group because you're 3 days into year group 12. Got back from that deployment, was like, all right, I'll essentially have to wait about 9 months before I can go to SFAS. That's where I found out that I was moved into an XO's position. And then was told that we were going to Korea. And I was like, there's no fucking way I'm going to Korea to do mechanized training. I don't want to sit in a Bradley. I dislike motor pools. I was angry that I got Fort Hood as a first duty station, but I'm going to make the best of it. But I refuse now, having done essentially a light rotation, to go back to heavy like that, especially too, when I'm going to get my next duty station as a captain for command, I'm now going to be able to go light. So I'm just going to stay light as long as I can. So I talked to my company commander. And one of the great things that you should really look into if you are a platoon leader thinking about going to Ranger Regiment is, I guarantee you that your company commander or a company commander within your battalion knows a captain, branch qualified captain at the Ranger Regiment, who can get you in touch as a platoon leader with an S1 at one of the battalions, at least put you in contact with the 75th Ranger Regiment recruiting officer, and start that dialogue. And so he and I sat down and talked about it. And I talked to one of my mentors who was a major at the time that spent time in SF and Ranger Regiment. He was like, you want to go to the Ranger Regiment? And so I dropped the packet for RASP-2, was fortunate enough that that packet got picked up by 1st Battalion, went through RASP-2, and then that's where I met Bobby, and then shortly thereafter, PCS'd to Hunter Army Airfield.
Let me stop you right there, and then just kind of bring up some good points that you talk about in your kind of journey. So you mentioned that you got, Fort Hood as your first duty assignment, and you said that you're pissed and angry that you got Fort Hood. But then, I think that's a very common challenge that a lot of people face, is that they don't necessarily get dealt the greatest set of greatest set of cards, where they get assigned with a duty station, what branch they get, their NCOs, the unit that they get. But what you're saying is that despite being pissed or angry that you got assigned to first cav, probably one of your least desired duty stations,
Absolutely.
You still are able to overcome those odds and kind of deal with the shitty hand that you're dealt, and still get to, drop a packet for SFAS, and then find out that that wasn't going to work out. And then you didn't take that to heart and just say, oh, fuck it, I gave up, and then you took that opportunity to, drop your RAS packet, which ended up going through. But I think that's a great point to highlight, is that, it doesn't really matter where you go. And somebody asked us about it earlier in a Q&A this week about not knowing what to do with their life. But when you get dealt a shitty hand of cards, do you, lie down and take it and just say, oh, woe is me, and never put the effort in to become the best, PL you could be, or whatever it is you could be? But you instead took that opportunity to become the best PL that you could be, the best PL probably in your battalion, because how many Ranger qualified infantry PLs are there in your battalion at Fort Hood? So first of all, you did that, and then you kept working at it, and then eventually distinguish yourself amongst your peers by being one of the best in your battalion to one, drop a packet for SFAS, not get that approved, and then, be one of the best in your battalion to get drop a packet for RAS2 and then get that approved, because, it's very uncommon to be able to even drop. I would say it's not very common to be able to even drop a packet for RAS2, because your battalion commander, isn't gonna sign off on that 4187 unless you're, a stud.
And that was really challenging. And what it was really unique, I would say, coming from a mech unit, because I would say the majority of officers that end up at the Ranger Regiment are coming from your 82nd, 101st, 10th Mountain. And you get some guys coming from the 25th, but it's like there's a huge disparity in the mechanized representation at these units. Within our brigade, at least in the couple months where I was dropping the packet, and then when you get to RAS2 and you're meeting like other lieutenants that are, competing for a slot, there were only 2 guys that I know that were from 1st Cav that had gotten picked up. And that other dude was another PL with me in my company within the same battalion. He moved mid-deployment to take over the scout platoon. And it was just like really unique. So I think, my company commander did a pretty good job ensuring that we were taking on like the appropriate level of responsibilities on our deployment in Afghanistan. He was allowing us, a lot of planning freedom, and, freedom of movement in our operations, going 90K plus out from the FOB that we were operating out of and doing some pretty cool things. And so I think it was like really cool to compete against somebody like that. You surround yourself with, 1, your peers, but 2, people that motivate you and push you. It's like something that, I really liked when I first met Bobby. I was like, oh, like he's going to call me a bitch because he knows I'm not putting forth effort on this exercise, and like vice versa, because we're going to hold each other accountable. And I think that was really important. I don't know if I had him to like kind of look up to when I was at 1st Cav, I would have been as motivated to continuously improve myself as a leader and to really see like, I learned a lot from him, how he engaged with his soldiers and his NCOs. And I was like, okay, I need to be just like John. Like John's the best officer I've ever seen in my life. I'm going to continue to try to shadow this guy and like just try to do what he does. If I can get 10% of that, then I've improved myself.
But yeah, I think that's very important you saying that, because it's like you are kind of setting the conditions for your own career and your own life. Because I think a lot of people, kind of just say like, oh, I have no control over this, or I have no, say in what goes on in my career. But I mean, you definitely have a say and an influence on what goes on, because, your company commander wouldn't give you that much trust or faith in you if you, one, weren't a high performer, or weren't, able, or he didn't perceive that you're able to accept those responsibilities. If you're a shitbag, your commander is obviously not going to give you these responsibilities to go farther or do all these things. But he trusted you because you were a high performing individual, because you rose up to the challenge and proved yourself as a high performing individual. So like guys that like get these shitty assignments or whatever, a lot of the time they kind of just fall to the standard and don't rise above the standard, and raise to the challenge, and kind of fall to like a lower threshold that the unit set. So I think that's the first point that I think I want to stress to everybody that's listening, is that, you really should put as much effort as you can in being the best version of yourself as you can be, because you never know what doors open and what opportunities will present themselves to you in your future career. But by setting yourself apart from your peers, rising above the standard, being the best, whatever it is that you can be, is going to open doors for you that you'd never know existed.
No, and that's exactly right. It was like, just, keep trying to get better each and every day. I think the thing that I was really frustrated about when I got Hood was twofold. It was, 1, I don't want to sit in a Bradley. Like, I hate the smell of diesel. I, generally thought that it was going to be a less fit, physically fit organization, which I was not wrong about. But 2, it was like a very proud, armor-centric unit. And when you're trying to get a 4187, like both my battalion commanders were armor officers, no tabs. I think maybe one had a cab, and I think maybe one was air assault qualified. And like that was the extent of their experiences. And trying to tell a battalion commander, especially when they're newer, that you want to leave their organization to go do something else, it's like you're shooting yourself in the foot with an OER. Like if you haven't already gotten your OER from the one battalion commander and you're waiting for the next one to sign it, looking out for his, amount of top blocks that he can get out, he can go, oh, I'm not giving a top block to this dude. He doesn't have any esprit de corps because he doesn't want to stay at 1/8 Cav, which is just like some of the worst officering ship like I can imagine. Like if you have a high performer and that dude's crushing it, that dude gets a top block. If that dude wants to leave this organization and I can tell my commander, that brigade commander, that, hey, I've got like a couple guys going to Ranger Regiment, like granted, yes, you might be losing some talent, compared to what the general pool that was available is. But at the same time, that person is going and trying to do something with their career that they're like striving to do. And it's just, I think it's awful when people, use that and put that over someone's head. Like if you leave, I'm going to give you, a center block, because and so that was what I knew going into Hood was going to be a likelihood, whether I wanted to go SFAS or then subsequently go to Ranger Regiment, because you're just going to have some really bitter people that are going to judge you for wanting to do something different than they did. And, they can slam you on your OER. And then, if you weren't successful, then you're kind of screwed at that point trying to get another nominative position.
Yeah, I will say that I have never gotten a top block on OER before. That might just be a portion because I was always an FSO. So I was competing with, the armor or infantry guys for the top block. So obviously I'm probably not think that top block, but I don't think it matters either at the end of the day.
No, they can write bullets. And I think OERs are so shit now because like, at Carson, at least a brigade commander that I had would save his top blocks for like the second time company commanders so that they would get, a look in their primary zone for major. And it's like, no, this dude was an awful company commander. He was an awful staff officer. We don't have enough captains. So you're going to give him an HHC command. He's untabbed, no CIB, like failed every selection school he's gone to. But, we have to look out so that he can get promoted to major. It's like, no, that's like the quality control aspect. Like you could have helped the Army out by getting rid of this guy. But that's like a whole different story with the evaluations we can talk about. But so immediately things that I noticed as soon as I got to Ranger Regiment that were 180 degrees different than the regular Army. The amount of responsibility that I had as a junior officer seemed to increase. The seriousness behind the training and the attention to detail was significantly higher. And like I had issues where, my attention to detail on a report that I'd written was not to where it should have been. And I had a company commander and it's like, I've never been chewed out so calmly and so professionally by someone that has left me so fucked up afterwards, where it was like, hey, they hired you for a reason. This is not the standard that, we expected of you. If this is what we're supposed to expect from here on out, I assure you, you won't be a platoon leader and you won't be here for very long. And I was like, oh, like, dear God. Oh, sorry. I will, and never made that mistake again. Like every other time, like I would read these reports 10 times over before I push send as like an intro. But the Rangers, the Ranger NCOs that were there were like going 100 miles an hour in so many different directions. I would say being a platoon leader in the Ranger Regiment felt more like being a company commander in the regular Army, because it wasn't like, your company was just doing one task. Within your platoon, each squad was doing something wholly unique to that squad for that week. You had multiple ranges, it seemed like almost every single week, where squads were going after and getting training. All the weapons that, the conventional Army didn't have, the Rangers are getting, specialized training on. The airborne proficiencies, the demolitions proficiencies, the medical proficiencies, which is just like off the chart. And the amount of training that like these enablers within the Ranger Regiment had to really go and just promulgate their lessons across the entire formation was like mind blowing. So immediately it was like, here's the fire hose, open your mouth and just take it and see how much you can ingest before you explode.
Yeah. Now I would 100% agree with that. Like, I was always extremely impressed by the Ranger NCO because it's pretty much essentially from like a team leader and above. Like, I would essentially like think of just give an extra like grade above that. So like any E4, E5 and regiment that's tabs as at the team level can be a squad leader or higher in the big army just like that. Like instantly could become
Yeah.
a big army squad leader. And like instantly give them up an extra grade because just the level of proficiency, the leadership, the just everything about the Ranger NCO was like instantly like a grade elevated in the big army. And it was insane just the level of competency that these guys had because I mean you're like your junior, your E4 that just got his tab, like a team leader. You think about realistically, that dude's already had like 2 or 3 combat deployments to Afghanistan
Yep.
or Iraq. He's done multiple rotations, and then people like a lot of the meme pages like to shit on like the 82nd, but it's really true. Like the Ranger Regiment, like they deploy every year to combat every year. They do missions every year. They go out and fight and do battle and kill bad guys every deployment. So it's just like there is a huge 9-day difference that I saw coming from Big Army to Ranger Regiment, and that I think contributes to it. But then just a level of maturity as well, because the guys that can make it to team leader and above, they survived being a private. And I would say that being a private in Ranger Regiment is probably one of the most stressful jobs you can get anywhere in the military.
Oh, it's unreal. Like, I tried to make it an effort that, like, as fast as you can to learn every single Ranger's name in your formation, to learn, which ones were getting ready to go to school. And so you really could see from the very beginning how the squad leaders and team leaders were preparing, like, hey, that Ranger that was definitely going to get a slot the next month compared to the Ranger that just showed up. And it's like, okay, we're going to have to make sure that one, after graduating RASP, where we had some Ranger NCOs, say and certify you as, yes, this guy is ready to serve. It's like, well, no, I want my own certification process. Like, I have a buddy that might be a RASP 1 cadre, but I trust him. I'm going to put him through my own crucible real quick to make sure that they're physically fit, mentally fit, and, they're motivated to be here. And I'm not talking like a hazing like experience, but like, and why we talk cardio is so important, but these like brand new Rangers to the platoons ran so much. I mean, they were running everywhere. There wasn't a single place that they would go where they were walking. They were showing up on time. Like in the regular army, I had soldiers show up late to PT formations, and you go up to their team leader and squad and you're like, hey, fix that. Like, that is unacceptable. We have to report to the first sergeant. I don't think I ever had a Ranger show up late to a single formation, not once. And if they were sick, they were there like half an hour earlier. So my day as a Ranger PL would start about 5:45 to 6 o'clock, showing up at the office. If it was a week where we were just staying at garrison, either preparing to go and do like an airborne operation the next week or go to some company or battalion level training, your squads are still getting after it. And it's great because during PT, there wasn't a single squad or a single time I had to worry about people not doing the right thing. In the big army, I had to check over the PT plans. None of them were ever planned out more than like a day. Nobody put any thought into the methodology behind the programming. But when you got to Ranger Regiment, every single squad leader could point like, hey, this is the progression. And it wasn't like this is the progression so that my guys are jacked when we put on our cry. We're just going to go and just tear shit up at TFT. It was like, no, I have, 9 guys in my squad. I have 4 tabs. I need my 5 other non-tab Rangers to get to school. So this is how we're doing a Ranger school progression. And then on top of that, this is how we are doing a deployment rotation training progression so that they're comfortable under kit for hours on end. And it was unreal. I never had, and you could always jump down with them and do some great PT. There wasn't a single time I went, if I jumped down and I knew one of the teams was doing a 5-mile run, I loved it because not only was that team leader trying to get his Rangers better, that team leader was like, I'm going to fuck the PL up. I am going to run this as fast as humanly possible. I might lose some of my Rangers and I'll smoke them later for dropping out before the PL, but I'm going to fucking drop the PL as fast as I can. And it was like, thankfully I showed up in good cardio shape and that never happened. But there were a couple team leaders I had that I was like, if I know they're doing a 5-mile, I'm not showing up. That dude he runs a sub 30-minute 5-mile. I'm not competing with that. He's got the fastest RPAT time in battalion. I'm not competing with that. I'll go drop with one of the other squads that's doing some like functional fitness type stuff. I trust this guy. So like right off at the very beginning. And every morning you're doing the Ranger Creed, and it's just like, it's so motivating to stand out in a formation, and you hear like a company do it, then your company's doing it, and everyone is just so proud, and then they play like the 3ID song. Everyone's like, what the fuck is this? Like, after you salute the flag, and you're just waiting for that thing to shut off just so you can do the Ranger Creed. And it's like the most motivating thing before you step off and you do PT. It's like, this is what it's all for. Like, the generations of Rangers who have come before me, if you spend 24 hours in that organization, like, do something in that 24 hours to make it better. It's like every day I felt like you were competing for that slot. It was never just well, that PL is a piece of shit, so I'm safe for today. It was like, he's pretty good. Oh, he just left. Oh, I need to find out what I need to do better today. And like, that was every single day, just almost living in fear.
Yeah, I was like, I always enjoyed, I bring up the story of my first counseling of my company commander about earning it every day. And that's kind of where the hashtag earn it comes from that we talk about. But basically, like, you have to earn the right to wear that tambourine. You have to earn the right to wear that scroll every day. And it's not just showing up and just, saying that you get to put it on, but you have to earn the right to put that shit on.
Yeah. And I would say too, being in the Ranger Regiment is way more humbling when it comes to your individual soldiering skills or your individual rangering skills. Because in the big army, like, I got pretty good with my radios, whether it was the embedder, the ASIP, or the 152. Like, you get comfortable with knowing how to programming and fill them. You get comfortable on your weapon system and going through basic trauma care. When I got to the regiment and like we'd go to a range, I was like the last guy to qualify expert. Every single Ranger has to qualify expert, like at every level. So like, I'm shooting like 36, 36, 37, 37. It's like, I just need this 38. And it was like, you have to show up each and every day. And like medical training, and, I'm coming from a mechanized unit, and we're going and doing these jumps. I've got like team leaders that are now jump masters, just graduating jump master school. And, all my squad leaders are getting their senior wings. And it's like, it's really motivating to see how long they've been there and how much they're doing. But like, I'm sitting there as a platoon leader thinking, shit, like, I wish I could go JMPI my Rangers and like be a part of this. And instead, like, I'm sitting on my pack, waiting to stand up and, bend over and like, get all the pieces checked by, some E5 and E6. And you're like, God, I want to be helping you out here. I feel like a total turd as a lieutenant just sitting here waiting like that. And that was the worst feeling. So it was like, whenever you had an opportunity to go and learn something, whether it was, medical training from your medic or learning some of the incredible communications equipment that you've got, like, that's what I was doing when I had free time, just so you could speak intelligently about it so that you didn't look like the most ate up dude in your platoon.
Yeah, I would say that there's a lot more independence. Maybe they give you a lot more rope to have some freedom to do what you think is appropriate. But that being said, there's a lot more ropes that you can definitely hang yourself with that rope too.
Oh,
and there are times when I did that
for sure.
as an FSO. Definitely did not definitely hug myself a couple times, put it that way.
Oh, there was I talk about like what it was like with training, and why being a platoon leader was almost like being a company commander, because you'd have a single week where, like, the platoon might be running a shoot house, but then they're also going and doing, a team certification somewhere that you're jumping down and doubling down on and helping out with another platoon. You might have guys going and doing like a KD range, when you have your condensed collective training cycle. And the company commanders are giving you a lot of freedom to say, hey, come up with a 16-week training program for the platoons that we'll implement in the next cycle, in the next jorts. And you're like, okay, great. Like, I'm going to get after it. And like, you sit down with all of your squad leaders. And unlike in the regular army where you could sit down and be like, okay, like, we're mechanized, we need to go and be, proficient on this table, or we need to go and get this digital trainer knocked out. And, oh, we have to get guys their dental and their vision and stuff, like their per stats all maxed out. The feedback that I got from the squad leaders was so much more focused on what the platoon really needed to improve on. And no one was sugarcoating. It was like, hey, I've got guys that are good with medical training, but we need a couple that are dynamite when it comes to doing this new technique. And you're like, okay, like let's schedule a time we can get, all of the battalion medics down here to do like some collective training with everyone and see what we can do. Or let's get your guys to go and take this like combatives different course, because they're going to come back and we're expecting them to teach it. So I got like the phrase candid and honest feedback was something that I really appreciated, because like if you fucked up, like your squad leaders would be the first to be like, sir, that was fucked up. Or your platoon sergeant would platoon sergeant be like, hey, the squad leaders are pissed, they're going to come talk to you, but you fucked up. And you're like, no shit. Like, yeah, let me figure out like what I did to step on their toes so that doesn't happen again. And like, it wasn't like, it was never from a bad place. It was just like, hey, this is how it's done in the Ranger Regiment. This is how we need to do it, because like at the end of the day, officers come every couple of years. We're going to stay here for a number of years before we go to another battalion. So it needs to be perfect every time, because that's how we get, graded. It's like the significance of the words was just like so lasting on me. So to the point where I'd go when I went to the regular Army and I was a junior captain, I would speak in the exact same way with the same amount of respect and professionalism. And I was shocked how many majors, lieutenant colonels were just like, I can't believe he's talking to me like this. It's like, I'm talking to you like an adult. Like, your training plan is horseshit. Like, this is why. I'm not coming to you with a problem. I'm coming to you with a list of solutions. Pick one, but don't waste my time if you're just going to write me off, kind of thing. And it was like, I appreciated that kind of, because it wasn't just leadership. It was like everyone had this buy-in to the platoon in the Ranger Regiment, and to that company, and to that battalion's mission, way more so than people did in the regular Army. The regular Army would be like, nah, I like my company enough. I fucking hate this battalion. The dudes in the Ranger Regiment were like, I love my company. I love my battalion. I love the Ranger Regiment. Fuck everyone else. Like, I'm going to do stuff to make Rangers successful. And it was like the esprit de corps was off the charts.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, that's one thing that I think the regiment has that no other unit has in the military is the RFS. And I think that's how regiment is able to maintain such a high level of everything, because at high standards, because once you have that threat of getting literally kicked out of the organization for not holding up the standard, like, there's so much more pressure on upholding the standard. And I think that's what makes regiment so unique, and that's why it has such a high standard and is able to uphold that high standard. Because you hear stories of like SF dudes that get fat once they get to their teams, like stop caring once they make it to their teams. Like, if a Ranger NCO gets their tab and stops giving a shit, they just get kicked the fuck out. Like, they lose that tambourine and then never come back. So it's just like, but it's just,
and you're constantly reevaluated. It's like, oh, you're now an E6. You want to be a platoon sergeant? We're going to send you back to RASP 2. Oh, you've just finished platoon sergeant time. You want to be a first sergeant? You're going to RASP 2. Like, every single rank that these individuals are promoted through, they're being reevaluated. As an officer, you want to go there. You're hitting RASP 2 every single time. You want to go back, I think maybe save for when you go back as a major, then they do like a condensed version while you're at ILE and for battalion commanders. But at that point, it's usually that's not your first rodeo there anyway. And so you at least have some history that you can point to. It's like, all right, like, we know this guy meets the standard, and this is going to be a great addition to the organization. So I don't know a single unit out there that is constantly assessing its members to like keep up that intensity, because like you said, like, you can't take your foot off the pedal.
Yeah, it's partially because there's always somebody behind you that can take your job over just like that, like instantly can take your job over. Like, as an officer, there's always that PLL or that, that lieutenant on staff that can just take that job over. The one time that you fuck up and then your battalion commander's like, said you're done, and you get picked up by the black helicopters, the Blackhawks at night, and you're never seen from again, because that happens. And like, I think people don't appreciate the fact that there's always somebody behind you or somebody that's in the background that can take your job instantly.
Dude, I was really fortunate. My company, I had been doing well through the training cycle, and we got picked to be the deploying company, and everyone was like that is just another round of pressure that you don't expect, because like, I would say I thought of myself as being like a pretty average platoon leader. there were guys in my battalion, and then again, my buddy John that was in another battalion, like I looked up to, like, that dude is doing it. I want to emulate this person. And then so all of a sudden, when you get picked to be the rotating unit, it's like, oh, like, did I deserve this? Do I deserve this? Because no matter how close of friends you are with every single one of the platoon leaders, like everybody wants to be the platoon leader that gets to say they deployed with a platoon, in the Ranger Regiment to Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria. Like that is just, it's such a unique experience. There's not a lot of opportunities to do that. I've got friends that there for 2.5 years, never once got to deploy as a platoon leader or XO. It's just like, that's the way that the cookie crumbles. And so after we get pegged to be the deploying company, we went to TFT, and like first mission that we had, platoon rocked it, did a phenomenal job. Second mission that we did, like I put myself in a position where I thought I could best like help orchestrate the, external fight and monitor the internal fight, because that's just one of those relationships that you'll develop when you get there with your platoon sergeant, the subject matter expert. And it was just, the pace was just not, it was not going as quickly as was the expectation. Like, you're usually doing an operation under a period of darkness, and like the expectation is you're in and you're out. And we were just going like a hair slower. We got indexed. Like it was, to this day, like people wake up and say they have like nightmares of exams when they were in college, or they have, like these random tests. Like I still get anxiety from thinking about being indexed on a lane, knowing that we were the rotating unit, and going, like, I apologized to the platoon afterwards. I was like, I fully expected, I'm being fired, I'm done. Like, you make one mistake, you're out, especially if you're the rotating, units. Like, all right, well, we've got a ton of companies, one that just got back a couple months ago, let's just send them again. Like, and did I now just take an opportunity away from my Rangers? And, that was like one of those things. It's like, we talk about, if you make a mistake once, learn from it, don't make it again. And so that's like been my personal motto when I mess up. And fortunate enough, the battalion commander was like, no, we still got confidence. You guys are going to go do more missions now to show us like that this was a one-time fluke. The next day we went out, absolutely destroyed the mission. We had so many variables thrown at us because they're like, all right, they were too slow. I want to throw the whole like kitchen sink at them, and let's see if it's really like an issue with the leadership, or like they're just not ready. And we crushed it. And like I was incredibly proud of the platoon and the Rangers. Like that was the standard that we had set the entire training cycle. But we get back, and now you've got rumors going through the battalion within the officer side, like, hey, somebody fucked up on TFT. Do we know who it was? Oh, are they gone? Are they still a platoon leader? Oh, wait, they're going to Afghanistan? No, he's not going to be a platoon leader. It's like, and so it was like there's a toxic element that's, within the battalions that's, you've also got to be aware of. It's everyone is a type A, super competitive. If I wasn't the deploying unit and I knew a company was going, and like a platoon leader was like just a hair slow on something, or the platoon didn't perform at like the 100% level, everyone, I totally get it, would be making the argument, no, they shouldn't go to Afghanistan. They're not perfect. And like, that is something like you have to live with, knowing that it's, no matter how friendly again you get with your peers, everyone wants that slot.
Yeah.
And, so then when I was a platoon leader in Afghanistan, it was like, you have to, even there, then it was like, this is the real deal. You have to perform. Like, you meet these challenges that are way different from training, and you have to be able to overcome them. And it was it was an incredible experience. But I, like, to this day, I'm like a full grown man. I still look back on it. I'm like, I never want to hear those words over the radio ever again.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a great point to make. It's just that it's such a type A organization that you're just competing every day to be that number one. And then it's just like, you probably won't ever be that number one too. And it's like, knowing that, you're never going to be the best one is kind of humbling. And I think that was, from my experience in my life, being a regiment was transformative and really humbling me in my kind of self evaluations, because I've always been like the number one guy at pretty much, or one of the top guys or whatever I was doing. And then when I got the regiment, I was no longer the top guy, and I was like barely the average.
Yeah. And so the other platoon leader that was, part of our deploying element on the missions, that dude ended up getting a top block. He was a phenomenal platoon leader. He had a phenomenal platoon. I did not get a top block, just for everyone's essay. And again, that was when I got to Ranger Regiment. That was the first time I honestly did not care about my evaluation, because it was one of those experiences that so few people in the Army are going to get to have. So long as you take those lessons from the 75th Ranger Regiment. And when I left, I totally had the intentions that when I take a company, I'm going to try to mirror what this company did in 175 and just try to make it incrementally better every single day. That's what I looked at Ranger Regiment was the Abrams Charter means something. This idea that you can leave the Ranger Regiment and bring just a little bit from it and get these, NCOs throughout the force in between their next, that next level, I think is incredible. I think it really makes the Army a better fighting organization. But it's just while you're there, I don't think there was a single day where I was calm. It was just this is a lot of stress that you just want to perform each and every day. And to the point, though, then when you get to the regular Army and it slows down, it gets really aggravating. I hate being here. I hate this unit. They're so slow. They're not getting it done. They don't take it seriously. Guys are fine with being mediocre. And it's I went through a really negative time when I was at MCCC and when I first got to Fort ID, because I just could not fathom people not taking the professional organization for what it was, and they were just whatever. I'm just here. I'm filling a role. It's that. I can't stand this attitude.
Yeah, because even though you're a middle block in Ranger Regiment, where it means that you're average, being average in Ranger Regiment still means you're a 99th percentile in the Army.
Yeah, I mean, in CCC, let's see, the other PL that was with me, he was the honor grad of his CCC class. I think I finished 10th out of 170 something dudes for mine. Another buddy was the honor grad. I mean, the guys coming down to Ranger Regiment, and it's I said too, when you're a PL and you feel like you're almost like a company commander, it's because at a single time when you're going out for training, not only are you going to have a number of enablers that a company in the regular Army would be fortunate enough to have, you're going to have fire support that a battalion in the regular Army might be fortunate enough to have. And again, not getting into too much detail, but just think of everything that you get to play with in a Call of Duty game, that you're just hoping to pick up that box, when you push that X button and open it up. That's each and every day, your platoon is playing with, at least a couple aerial platforms, probably some organic fire support within your formation, and then something on standby that they can just swoop right in. And the entire training time before you get an opportunity to deploy, they're just constantly increasing the amount of responsibility you have as a platoon leader, talking with your fires NCO and just walking and synchronizing these fires to the point where I got to MCCC and they're oh, you've got priority of fires for this phase of the operation, and your company has handheld mortars. And you're that's it? Oh, that's too easy. Yeah, my plan's already done. Here you go. And they're submitting it. They're wait, did you do the have you gotten your Symphony of Destruction? Yeah, dude, you're giving me something that I had 3 times as many support assets on a single platoon mission in Afghanistan. I'm good. Next. And so that was something that was really, again, you just feel very privileged that you get that opportunity. And you're 26 when you're there as a platoon leader, and you're doing some really great operations, not only for the 75th Ranger Regiment, the special operations elements, but for the Army and the missions that's going on there for the country. It's it's really humbling at the end of the day, getting to look back and be I cherish that time in the 75th. I cherish the lessons I've learned from my Rangers, and it's something that really spills over into what we try to do here at Cronus. It's just just make something better and just try to improve it.
Yeah, definitely with you on that. Anything else you want to talk about with being Ranger PL?
Yeah, I say you don't have as much face time with your company commander, battalion commander, so don't expect it. In the regular Army, every single morning we'd have a 6 a.m. meeting where it's kind of almost like checking in to make sure the platoons were doing the right thing for the day. Uh, I might have seen my company commander maybe once a day, if that, just passing in the hallway. I think I saw my battalion commander maybe once or twice a month, if that, because you'd have companies going all over the place to do all sorts of cool training. So, like, the expectation is you are working in isolation with your platoon sergeant and your squad leaders, and like you're getting the task done. And unless you need to get something, request something, like you'll go talk to the XO first, who, in the regular army and the conventional army, like, you get the XO position. It's kind of almost like obligatory at some point for guys. In the Ranger Regiment, the individuals that have chosen to be XOs are the best of the best in that entire organization. So, just think about it like, a fifth of the guys that are there are going to be picked at some point in your stint to be XOs, and they could go be company commanders literally the next day and run with that and be completely competent and able to do so in the Ranger Regiment. I'm not talking just regular Army. Every single platoon leader in the Ranger Regiment could take over a company in the regular Army the next day and be successful. But these XOs could do it at that next level if necessary. And it's just that should be like one of your best friends to make sure you're doing everything right. Before you send a con op in, check with the XO. Because the last thing you want is that company commander to come down the XO's throat and be like, why didn't you vet this? This is dog shit. Like, and just expect that when you make a mistake, like, it's going to feel like you got a hammer coming down on the top of your head, but you won't make that mistake again.
Yeah, I was like, definitely that's something that I noticed with a lot of the Ranger PLs is that it was like they were playing chess a lot of the time, especially with training and being able to manage assets. Like as an FSL, my job was pretty straightforward. I would just, have when assets came on station, I tell the commander and then push them down into a platoon and have the FO take over. And it's pretty much me just monitoring the nets and being able to kind of manage our assets for the commander so that the commander didn't have to manage the assets, But like the PLs, PLs have to do everything, managing the assets, coordinating, synchronizing fires, maneuvering elements and everything. So like, that's one thing that I came to really appreciate as a kind of a third-party observer is how PLs, what separated in my mind the good PLs from the best PLs was their ability to synthesize and kind of manage all that information. Because like you said, it's like drinking from a fire hose. It's like sensory and information overload every time you do a training mission or just a mission in general. And the best PLs that I noticed are the ones that are able to take that information and act decisively and doctrinally to support their mission. And it was just like, it was really cool because being as an FSL, I was there for 2 training cycles. So I got to see, 6 different PLs throughout their time. It was just really cool being able to see like who did what very well and who was able to, distinguish themselves from their peers, and being able to kind of watch the PLs and the platoon sergeants, like their interactions and seeing how the PLs like interact with the platoons and all the other stuff. It was really interesting as an FSO. And then just being an FSO and Ranger Regiment was fucking awesome. Like we did so many training exercises. It's different for the infantry platoons because, you can do most of your training on post with the ranges and what have you. But for fires guys, we have to go work with the assets. So we would do probably like once a month, we would go off post training and go somewhere else and go work with the assets. And it was a great experience for me being able to learn how to liaise with different assets and different organizations. And then I'll say that I think the thing that I'm most proud of as an FSO wasn't anything that I did with with the company, but it was like more so how I was able to support my company. As FSO, I was pretty much essentially the extra officer, the extra planner, because the platoons at the PLs at the plan for the platoon ranges and platoon training, but then the company commander is not going to plan for company level training because he's got other shit that he has to do too. So all of the company level training fell to me to plan. The XOs helped certainly, but the XO also has to do the XO duties.
Yeah.
So I was the kind of the primary company planner for pretty much any of our company level training events outside battalion level. I just remember in Korea, we did a training deployment to Korea, and then we had a force on force mod that our company commander wanted to do. So I was the primary planner for that, and then pretty much it was 3 days of missions, 9-day missions. So guys were getting like 2 missions a day. So essentially trying to simulate like combat and getting like 2 missions a day. And then one platoon would get fragoed on their second mission and go out for a follow-on mission. And it was like just literally me planning this entire thing. It was like it ended up being something like 3 platoons over 3 days, 6 missions. I think they were doing like it was like 30 something missions that I was planning, with objectives, with target packets, with synchronizing aviation assets, synchronizing support. So it was just like I came to really appreciate kind of the detail and planning that goes into a training event. And I'll say that's probably, you're saying that you get nightmares of, getting indexed. I have nightmares of having to plan having to plan an exercise like that again. Cause that was the most stressful that I've ever been, was planning and being able to support this mission because, if I failed, then the entire company failed and nobody would get good training out of it. And it was just, it was a great experience for me. And like, after that, it's just like pretty much planning anything for me is pretty straightforward at this point.
Oh, it's great. I mean, like, and two, when I got there, I had to plan the squad live fire for the company. And, when you see your battalion commander or the S3 or the XO, like, you're like, okay, like that dude wants to make sure that, I'm squared away. I would say the person I was more intimidated by would be, one of the sergeants major that was at the battalion. Like, the majority of them had mustard stains, like just salty, jacked, still like would love to just be a rifleman at that point, like, and just get after it again. And when they would come around and they would ask you about like, hey, the squad live fire, what weapon systems have you incorporated? Like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you'd be like, okay, well, that's not good enough. Like, we should do this too. Have you considered this for the Rangers? Like, that's a weapon system that I'm sure they're going to see in the future. Like, we should incorporate that. And then, like, so learning all of these, really getting into that arms room and seeing like, okay, what's something in here that we should use in the future? And like talking to the first sergeant, like, all right, we got to get this, incorporated because this is important for training. And the one thing that I would say is like a lot different, which is really weird. Like, I had a ton of great moments as a platoon leader, like great times. I can't remember those as much as I can, like, just those, like, literally a handful of times where, like, you didn't perform badly. You just did not perform to, like, the level that was expected of you. Like, the one report I sent in when I was in the JOC to a company commander on a post-mission recap for him, and then the TFT where we got indexed, like, 2 times. Those 2 things are like my biggest regrets and my biggest memories while I, like, of all things I did in the military. But then I look back at Ranger School, I can't think of any real bad times at Ranger School, even though I knew I hated every single day of it. I can only remember, like, just bullshitting with my friends and, like, having a go at it and being like, oh yeah, Mount Yona, whatever. Like, I fucking hated that place. But like, it's so weird how completely opposite my recollection is of like going through Ranger School and then being in Ranger Regiment. Was like phenomenal times on missions. Like, there was one where we had goat, we had duck, because we had to remain over day on like a couple day operation. Like, that was like an awesome, like, working with these Afghans who made a meal for us in the middle of nowhere. I don't remember quite as many details as walking at Fort Campbell and just seeing my battalion commander just staring at me like this through nods and being like, huh, well, I guess I'll PCS. Like, this has been great. Like, it's weird. It's a weird dynamic, but I loved it. Like, I'd go back in a heartbeat. If you asked me to just be like a staff officer there and, just shine coins that he would hand out after training, I'd volunteer for it every single day.
Yeah, that's true. I do remember all the times like I got fucked down by like the company commanders or field grades. Yeah, I'll never forget getting fucked down. Those are always, I don't remember, like you said, a lot of the great stuff, like the good memories. I do remember a lot of the times where I got real fucked down. And they were never like screamed at or yelled at fucked downs. They're like, hey, you fucked up. Don't do that again. And I'm like, oh, yeah. Fuck.
No, and like, and it's not like even like a real life scenario. Like, I've gone on missions when I was in the conventional army, and like the ANP, AUP were taking too long to get ready to go out on mission with us, fully knowing that the expectation is every single American force that went out had to be partnered with the Afghans. American forces could not go in compounds without Afghan support. And like, we got into a tick one time. I didn't have Afghans with me. I'm sitting there like we're getting, we've got Dishka, we've got recoilless coming at us, and I'm just like, my thought process at that point was, all right, we're gonna get rid of these guys. We're gonna have to go clear these compounds. Fuck, I don't have Afghans with me. Like, this is a huge problem. And my commander showed up, was like, they don't show up sometimes. You still have to go out on mission. Like, we can't help it. Like, you make one, like, I have the wrong platoon listed on a mission, back brief, and that's like the end of the world. Like, it's like the severity is totally not representative of, like, the stress that I should have had. And it was just like, that I think it's just it goes down to like what the expectations are, and you just have to expect much higher levels of attention to detail and standards when you get to the Ranger Regiment, and hope that carries forward, the rest of your military career.
Yeah, so like for me, that one time that I won't forget was we were doing a company or platoon live fire, and we had some big Army artillery units supporting us, and they could not get their shit together, and I was like losing my shit, not on the net, because I'm trying to be very, you're supposed to be calm and collected on the net, but I'll be like, okay, whatever. I like just talk on the net like normally, and then when I would key off, I'd be like, these motherfuckers, I would like lose my shit, and this was in front of the S3, who I think is battalion commander right now at 375, and just him, like after that event, was just like took me to the side. I was like, you can't do that ever again, and I was like, oh fuck, and then it's just like I always like the ones the fuck downs that I remember are always the very calm ones where they are unemotional.
I was never yelled at by a single person the entire time I was there. It was always just like me talking to you right now. That's how, like, I'm disappointed in you.
Yeah. Like, that's like the one. Yeah. And that's like,
yeah, but I do have to say, like, I've seen some, like, a fair share of fuck downs where people did yell and elevate their voices. And like I said, like, when you meet somebody on the street that, angers you, or they scuff your Pumas, like, like you can turn up that knob. Last story is my first, I had to plan the company live fire for my brigade, before they went to Afghanistan. And I had a company commander show up, and this guy had been a company commander for a year, show up to the talk and ask for imagery for the objective, ask for maps, and ask for a physical copy of the order, like all of which had been sent out weeks before to all of the battalions. This guy didn't go. Yeah, this guy didn't go to his battalion talk first to look for this. He just decided to stroll into brigade. And I'm sitting there, the S3's there, and he's like, hey, like, I need this product. And I'm like, I'm a little angered at this point, like, okay, like, how do you show up to a company live fire that is supposed to certify you to go to Afghanistan and not have this product, whatever. So like, I print him out some maps. This guy, like, idiot. Second later, like, I see him walk over to the specialist that's sitting at the RTO desk. He's like, hey, can you print me out a copy of the order? And at this point, I'm like, what did you say? And he's like, I just wanted a copy of the order. And I lost my shit. I was like, how are you showing up to the company live fire without the fucking order? Something that's already supposed to have been briefed to your entire company. Why don't you have the order? And why do you need 6 copies of it? Like, do you not know how this goes? Company, battalion, brigade? Like, if the brigade commander was here, would you feel confident enough coming up here, just going straight, bypassing every other chain of command, just to look for the fucking order that was promulgated weeks ago, that you had to back brief him on before you even set foot in here? Like, how are you so fucked up? And he's like, you need to calm down. And I was like at that point, it was like, I'm seeing red. Like, don't fucking tell me to calm down. Like, this is like a life or death training event. Like, this is supposed to replicate, because I tried to make it just like the company live fire that I had in Ranger Regiment. I was like, everything was like almost exactly alike. It was like, if you fuck up one thing on there, someone could die. Like, that is a level of training and seriousness that, like, is built into this training event. How do you not understand that? And how are you so casually fucked up? Like, you don't even look at all like you're embarrassed that you have to come up here and ask for something. Get the fuck out. And he's just like, are you not giving me that? I was like, no, get the fuck out of the talk. And he leaves, and my brigade S3 was just like, yeah, that dude was fucked up. I was like what the fuck? Like it makes me irate to this day because it's like you have such a level of responsibility as a company commander. Like your guys have to trust you, and you don't like. And so like that's one of the things that I took from Ranger Regiment was like if I have to blow up on somebody, I'm going to do it the exact way that I saw some of these Rangers do it because they did it better than anyone else. Like there's the I'm disappointed, and then there's the you're going to die.
Yeah, I will. As soon as I see an NCO start raising his voice, I'm like, all right, I'll see you guys later.
Yeah, I'm gonna head off the back.
Later,
see
guys.
you PT tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll see you guys later. make sure they drink water.
Yeah.
Oh man. But yeah, I think we should we'll start wrapping this up before we get real deep into the storytelling.
Yeah, sorry for the stories, but I hope that answered some of the questions that you all have sent to us for life as a Ranger PL. It probably wasn't as detailed as some of you would have liked. Just understanding that neither Bobby nor I are going to talk in that level ever about what it's like being in the organization. If you want to be there, if you want to serve there, drop a packet and find out yourself. But there's that expectation of the quiet professional, and here's an insight to, I guess, being a general platoon leader in every formation that you can take things away from it and try to improve yourself.
Yeah, I think the big takeaways are to be, always be value added to your organization or to whatever it is. Be value added, never be value detracted. Always show up every day, making sure that you're trying to make yourself and the organization better, earning it every day, never taking or accepting or falling down to the level of expectations, but rising above the expectations. I think are all good takeaways that you can get away from this episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
And actually, should I read some reviews? That we've got some reviews now.
Oh yeah.
Since we haven't done this in a while, we got actually a bunch of reviews from on the iTunes that I did not notice. We've got in May from Ross Kalin, quote, worth a listen, knowledgeable yet humble dudes that provide a unique insight into life and leadership. Thanks, brother. Appreciate that. We have DJ09. Sean and Bobby are by far the best duo on the podcast library. They combine the aspects of fitness and mental preparation into the military environment. Anyone that's looking for the extra edge to succeed, Cronus Fit is a podcast to go to. Thank you for all that you do.
It's very nice.
And Ohio Goalie 35. Whether you're an Army Ranger or brand new poolee in the United States Marine Corps or anything else in between, the content in these podcasts is 100% worth your time. Excellent information that is delivered without any of the political BS that kills other shows. I will say that maybe the last couple episodes.
Yeah, I was a little snowflakey the last couple shows.
And then it continues. An effective service member is a well-rounded service member, and these guys bring it with the best of combining fitness, health and wellness, current events, and other tidbits of life advice. So we appreciate it, guys. We love hearing stories of you guys who have gone out and crushed it, who have gotten that past that selection, past RASP, moved on to the next step. We really appreciate you guys, letting us know about it, because it makes it worthwhile for us if hearing that you guys are succeeding in life because of our small contributions. Because at the end of the day, we don't really provide that much. You still get, it's you guys that are going out and putting the effort in, putting in the sweat, putting in the dedication to succeeding and getting to your goals. And if we're able to help facilitate in whatever way that we can, more than happy to help.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep reaching out and asking questions, and we'll try to answer them to the best of our abilities.
And with that, my other announcement is hoping to get the new logo and rebranding out by the end of the month. I'm still waiting to hear back from a local screen printer. So I'm kind of trying to synchronize having the new apparel come out with the new logo, so we can have a big release, but more to follow on that. So stay tuned. We're trying to do some stuff behind the scenes on getting some new apparel and some new swag rolled out, figuring out a brand new supply chain. But that's on the back end and behind the curtains that you guys don't really necessarily worry about. Just apologies on kind of the delay in getting it settled and getting out to you guys.
All right. Well, Bobby, I will. I'll talk to you, I'm sure, like immediately after this, and just catch up some more. But we'll be back next week for another round of military topics and getting after fitness.
Absolutely. Until next time, guys. Later.
Peace.